Let's all stand and give praise to God. Rock from side to side, come on. Stand. Let's all stand and give praise to God. If you feel it, yeah, stand. Let's all stand and give praise to God. Do you feel it? Oh, stand, stand. Let's all stand. God. Oh, stand. Na 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 na. That's the spiritual language. Hey, stand. Na 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 na. Hey, stand. Thank y'all so much. Yes, yes.
Oh, what are you willing to stand for? Good afternoon again. I shall be standing for something. But before you can even think about what you stand for, I have a question. And y'all have an answer. Who are you? Who are you? Not where do you live, not who do you work for, not your lineage, where my mother is, and you know my cousin is a senator. No, who are you? I ask that question because you notice in social settings when you ask the question, who are you, people start telling you what they do. Because I realize many of us come here and we get so busy doing that we forget about being, or we don't even think of who am I? Who am I? When I arise in the morning, who am I? Now, if you haven't thought about that, I'm going to lead you through this and ask you a few questions. It might give you a little insight. What are you spending and being spent for? What are you spending and being spent for? Better yet, what commands and receives your best time or your best energy? What commands your best time or your best energy? What are you being spent for? Every day, because I am truly convinced that none of us just came here because God had nowhere else to put us. We are here for a divine purpose. So what is your purpose? What value are you adding to this thing called life? Just something to think about when you go home. Because, see, if you haven't addressed that question, you probably don't know what you stand for either. Because if you don't know who you are, how you going to know what you stand for? I'm just asking, you know, hey, don't shoot the messenger. I'm asking the question. I didn't make this up. God gave it to me. That's why you getting it. Well, I listen to what Spirit brings to me, and now this whole summer series is about life in the melody of God. That's why we stand. And whoever wrote that song, I know who sung it, Sly and the Family Song did it first. But what I know is that person really had given it some thought. If you don't know who you are and what you're spending your life juice on, then you probably don't know what you stand for. Now, when I thought about standing for something, I went to me first. Who am I? I am a child of the Most High God. I'm a perfect expression of God. I got real clear this week. If God had wanted me to be different, it would have made me different. But God wanted me to be just like this. Just like it made you to be just like you are. And you, and even you too. If God had wanted you to be somebody else, it would have made you somebody else. So I go back to, what do you stand for? And I ask that question because way too many times we see injustice and we choose to say, that's not my problem. We choose to make like we don't see it. We choose to turn our head. And because we don't know what we stand for, because we don't really know who we are. See, as a minister is one thing, and it's not an occupation. Let me get this straight. Being a minister, trust me, it's not an occupation. It's a calling. There's a big difference. See, a job is what you go and get paid for. A calling is what you were made for. There's a real big difference. Because some of us do jobs until we identify our calling. See, and my calling has made me stand for equality, has made me take a stand for love, has made me take a stand for your right to be you. Because this is what I know. If I don't stand for your right to be you, guess what? Who's going to stand for my right to be me? And I started thinking about some people that have shaped life as we know it. And some of these people, I think, wow, they must be metaphysicians because they really got this stuff together. I will just give you a few quotes by some folks that I kind of like that stood for something. They stood for equality, and they stood for love. And, you know, when you talk about standing for something, there's something you need to look at. See, to stand requires 3 legs. If stand was a stool, it needs 3 components. It needs faith, love, and courage. You ever notice it's real hard to stand if you only have 1 leg? Oh, you can get by with 2. But if you really want to stand like a tree by the river and not be moved, you need 3 points of contact. You know, that might be the Spirit and the Holy Ghost. Come on now, somebody, y'all know what I'm talking about. Don't make me say it like that. You know, you got to have that triune nature, those 3 points, that triangle nature to have you anchored in something. Because the people I'm about to describe, they stood for something. And most of them started with faith. Now, in Hebrew 11:1, right out the gate, it says, faith is the substance of things hoped for, as it was substance of things which have come to pass, and is the evidence of things not seen. What did Rosa Parks stand for? And I'm going to start with her because she actually sat down, but she stood for something. When they asked her many years later, well, Rosa, she said, you know what? I was just tired. You know, when you get sick and tired of being sick and tired, sometimes you'll stand for something. No, I don't have to get up because you said so. Anybody know who Cesar Chavez was? He organized the farmers. You know, he must have been a spiritualist in his own right because he stood for some things. And I am sure that it required just an incredible amount of courage for him to stand. He said, self-dedication is a spiritual experience. Now, this is a guy organizing some grape pickers. Look, self-dedication is a spiritual experience. And I love when, you know, you talk about standing for something. He went on to say, preservation of one's own culture does not require contempt and disrespect for others' culture. So it gets back to, I wonder, what are we standing for? And I'm going to say this last quote by Cesar Chavez because I love it so much. He says, real education should consist of drawing the goodness and the best out of our students. What better book can there be than the book of humanity? Now, these are people that had an idea of what they stood for. Now, that faith in things unseen, when you get real clear, and this takes practice, it takes sometimes baby steps to get real clear on faith. And sometimes we do this. We tiptoe and put our foot in. Be like, God, I'm going to step out here now. You got me, don't you? You're not going to let me fall. I can tell you from my own experience, and I'm going to invite each one of us to look at our own lives. And I can tell you, God has always had my back. I have never went out on the skinny branch of life and God I call on the Lord, and the Lord, hey, look, I'm on vacation. Take 2 aspirin, call me tomorrow. Call your Uncle Johnny, because I'm not available. The Lord has never, the law of God has never taken a vacation, and many of us are afraid to take a stand because we don't know if someone has our back. And that's when it calls on courage. You know, courage is an interesting thing because courage is what David had when he went up against Goliath. Do you all know the story of David and Goliath? Oh, Goliath was a big dude. You know, if you listen to that scripture, Goliath was over 8 feet tall. David might have weighed $125. Goliath was around there beating his chest, scaring folks. Oh, send your best. I'll take them out. And he said this for scripture says 40 days. He was around there beating his chest, intimidating people. Come on. You don't have anybody over there that can handle this. And little David, little bitty scrawny guy, he said, put me in, coach. I got this. They had to convince the king because they were sure that David would be killed when he went against the giant Goliath. Here's little David. He had a slingshot and a few rocks. Now, this is what courage does for you. When you trust God, God shows out. Let me say that again. When you trust God, God shows out. God's dream for your life is always bigger than your imagination. God dreamed great big dreams. You're over here dreaming what you know. God dreams in 3 dimensions about what you don't know, what you can't see, because you can only see where you're standing in the picture frame of life. Oh, but David went into it with his slingshot, and here's Goliath with all his armor on. But guess what? Do you think it was happenstance or circumstance or serendipity that there was just a hole big enough for David's rock to get through? And he hit Goliath in the head, and as they say, just like the song said, the giant about to fall and the midget is standing tall. David hit Goliath in the head, but it took courage. He didn't get there and say, now, God, how am I going to do this? He had faith in things unseen. And many of us, we're not taking a stand in our lives. Martin Luther King took a stand in his life. And all of the people that I have described, Cesar Chavez, Joan Baez took, in 1974, Joan Baez said something very profound, and it should be printed everywhere. She said, instead of getting hard ourselves, talking about women, and trying to compete, women should try and give their best qualities to men. Bring them to softness. Teach them how to cry. She said that in 1974. And I will say this, there's one leg of standing, this stool called stand, that I haven't talked about, and it's called love. I equate love like water. You know, water is one of the few things that can exist in multiple states. It can be a gas, it can be a solid, and it can be a liquid. See, love, you can heat it up. It can get hot. You can freeze it. and it'll cool off a hot situation. You don't even have to open the door on a situation. You just post some love on it and it'll run under the door. Love will take on the shape of whatever you're trying to address. But you must bring the love. And this is a hard part because somewhere we are conditioned that it's my way or the highway. Someone has to lose so someone can win. What if there are no losers and winners? What if we come to the table, the throne of God's grace, in harmony? What if we come wanting the very best for you and the very best for me? What if we pour some love on things? I don't ever advocate that you should stand against anything or anyone. I advocate that you should stand for love. Stand for peace. Stand for equality, gender equality, racial equality, religious equality, spiritual equality, health equality. You know, we're going over here to 3 Square to fill 5,100 bags with food because they give these bags to children every Friday because these children would not eat till Monday morning if someone didn't provide the food. And if you go to any of these buildings or restaurants, you see food thrown away every day. Yesterday, I had the privilege, and I call it a privilege, the teen program that I do for Clark County, our civic engagement project was to go to the Las Vegas Rescue Mission and work all day. And we had several projects going on there, and one of them was to serve on the food line. And I thought, you know, it's nice to serve these people, but I don't want them to be faceless entities. So I got a tray, and there was hot dogs and french fries and whatever else, a salad and whatever, and I sat down with 2 little girls and their mother, and I just engaged in conversation. And Lord, I can tell you, any other day it could be anyone in this room. Because I asked the first little girl, how old are you? And she said, ma'am, I'm 14. And her name was Sade. And her little sister is Robin. And the mother, and they were very articulate, well-spoken little girls. And I'm thinking to myself, how did they end up down here at the rescue mission? And then the mother said, well, I recently moved here from California, and I had lived in a house that had mold in it. And she had been a dental technician. And she goes on anyway to tell her story. And what I said was, how good do you feel when you know that there are some children down at the rescue mission in this heat? And she said that we have to be out of the quarters by 9 a.m. and we can't come back till 3 p.m. I don't know about you, but it's 110 degrees out there. And I'm asking, you know, questions like, well, what do these children do all day? And she said, we walk. We walk. Now, I look at that, and I know it could be any one of us on a different day. So we, as individuals, we can't solve everyone's problem, but we have to stand to know and hold people accountable. And the only person I can truly hold accountable is me. That's the only person that I can truly hold accountable for what I see going on right around me. And I admit it is oftentimes a whole lot easier to look the other way. But when you see 2 well-spoken children, and I was amazed. I enjoyed talking to them because they were so polite. They were so well groomed and educated. And I listened and hear the simple things in life that you forget. They had hot dogs, and I said, well, we got mustard? I'm about, oh, we're going to get some ketchup. So I go up to the food service line. Hey, I need some ketchup. And the lady said, oh, we ran out yesterday. And you don't have any more? No. But what I saw was these children eat the hot dogs with nothing on it. And they were grateful. And they said grace. Take a stand. Not against anybody else or anything else, or blame or feel the need to blame anyone else, but take a stand. Stand for love. Stand for equality. And it sometimes means that, as they say, mind your own business. Sometimes it means you can't mind your own business. You know, my pet peeve is, if I had to have one, and I don't know if this has happened to anyone else, someone come and tell you, yeah, I didn't agree with what they did to you. Well, why are you telling me in private and you watched them do it in public? You didn't say nothing. How many, this happens to some folks, gay people, black folks, Muslims. Yeah, I didn't agree with what they did to you. Well, why are you whispering to me afterwards? Why didn't you speak up and say, I don't agree? I don't think you're being fair. Well, you know why we don't? Because we're too busy wanting to be liked. Well, I don't want to cause myself any problem. So I'm not going to speak up when they come for you or when they come for you. No, I'm not going to speak up. And eventually they're going to come for me. So get real clear about who you are and why you are here. And stand in, on, and through that. See, I stand for love. I stand for equality. And that's not getting ready to deviate. And I stand for the right for me to be me. Now, the flip side of that is, I also have to stand for the right for some of us to be who we are. And when we get our little judgment hats on, we want them other people to change. God, I wish he wouldn't do that. Well, that's who he is. So stand. Stand in love, have the courage and the faith. And Science and Mind says, Ernest Holmes says some interesting things about faith. He says, it is impossible to arrive at the grandeur of faith, possibility, with petty thinking and small ideas. You can't arrive at the grandeur of faith with that petty thinking and small ideas. The whole expectancy must reach out to more. So yes, impossibilities are my expectancy and focus today. Because I learned something, that when you get really committed and you really take a stand for something, you don't have to know how it's going to unfold. Cesar Chavez didn't know how it was going to unfold. Rosa Parks didn't know that sitting on the bus, she had no idea how it was going to unfold. We try to look at, how is that going to happen? Don't worry about the how. You worry about the what. What are you standing for? And the how will reveal itself. So what I stand for is the right to be me. And that was so profound. I mean, I had a sense of freedom when I realized, hey, God made me this way. How many times have you said you wanted to be something different? Short people wanted to be taller. Tall people wanted to be shorter. Dark people wanted to be lighter. I heard a small woman, my dream when I was growing up was I wanted to be 5'2" and weigh 110 pounds. I lost that dream and got me a new one. I just want to be healthy now. Until I met a woman who was 5 foot, and she was feisty, and she had a lot of stuff going on. And I said, what's that about? And she said, I'm tired of people trying to always take care of me, like I can't do for myself, like I'm incapable, as if I am a child. And I started seeing that 5'2" look real different after that. I started thinking, everybody wanted to take care of her. And she just wanted to be a woman, but they wanted her to be a little girl. Or the real tall man. Everybody wants to make him a basketball player. It's true. You real tall, they want to make... See, when we start standing for something, we stop projecting our filtered stereotypes onto other people. We start embracing them. So when you stand for love, you can sit with a homeless family and recognize they are you on any other day. When you start standing for love, even if you decide not to give the guy smoking a Marlboro at the corner down here with a sign that says, homeless, please help me, you can look at him and see the face of God without making a judgment. That takes practice. Because I'm just telling you, it takes practice. I'm telling you, because I had a homeless man come up to me smoking a Marlboro, and you know, the first thing I was like, how much do those things cost? That was my judgment. That was my judgment. And how many times do we make them every day? In every way we make judgments, and it's not always conscious. So we must be good stewards of our mind, because the mind is a wonderful servant and a terrible master. You're right, laugh. It's a wonderful servant and a terrible master, because you allow your stories to dictate your behavior. There is a piece about the heart and about love, and I'm going to close with this. Let me find it, that I find very interesting. You know, I hate to look for things. I shouldn't say I hate to look for them. I don't appreciate looking for them. The heart is the center of divine love and perfect circulation. Its action is harmonious, vital, adequate, and complete. Love is at the center of man's being. It's continuous. Solomon, from the Bible, is accredited with many words of wisdom. And he said in Proverbs 4:23, keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. I will go on and close with this. And we enter, the gift of heaven is life and not death, love and not hate, peace and not confusion. And we enter into this paradise through the gateway of love toward one another and toward God. Love is greater than all else and covers a multitude of sins or mistakes. Love overcomes everything and neutralizes all that is unlike itself. Love is God. And I stand for that. If you stand for love, please stand. Absolutely. Because this is what I know. This is the place where love shows up. And this is what I know. If each one of us stands for love, we go out into the world and we take our stand with us. Don't ever leave home without it. Leave the American Express card at home. Don't ever leave home without love. Always stand for love. Always stand for faith. Always commit to be courageous, even when you don't want to be. I'm Miss Bertha's baby girl, and you may be seated. This sister here